This whole fake law thing, this whole thing with these judges coming against the president with orders.
Yeah,
Tell me about how does that work? Can you help me understand this?
Everybody talked about the Supreme Court, and I was one. I think I may have said it on your program beforehand. You got to understand that this is not just about the Supreme Court. This is about the appointment of judges throughout the federal judicial system. And Barack Obama appointed 305 in his 8 years.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Now, these are the people that make the rulings on these kinds of things like his immigration executive order. We have activist judges. I live in the state of Virginia. That's the Fourth Circuit Court in Richmond. That was one of the most conservative courts of appeals in the country. It was 2-to-1 conservatives to liberals. Today, it's just the opposite.
Really?
It's 2-to-1 liberals to conservatives, and that's because of the 8 years that Obama had to make appointments to that court. We have now turned that court to being a totally liberal court. The Ninth Circuit Court out in California.
Yes.
The one that is overturned more than any other court in the land because they always issue activist liberal decisions. That is because Bill Clinton stacked the deck in that court. Now, what Trump's got to do in his 4 years is he's got to do everything he can to get as many conservatives into the court system at that level, not just at the Supreme Court, but at that level, because first of all, you need to understand that the cases that are going to be heard by the Supreme Court in almost every case are going to go through one of those courts.
Right. Right.
They're going to go through one of those courts.
Yes.
They have to.
Have to.
That's our process. So we've got activist judges out there that were put there by Obama and Bill Clinton and others that are just essentially governing from the bench. And that's not what the court's supposed to be about.
The president wanted to stop terrorists from coming into America. He wanted them to be vetted. That's the word, a fairly new word for most of us, but it just means to go through a test to see if they might be a terrorist. And the court has stopped him from doing it. What is the president's #1 job? To protect us?
Laurie said it. It's to protect the nation. #1.
But you have courts here that are taking the president's power from him to not. That's why I'm frustrated. I'm saying, who's going to be president? What are they doing? They're taking the power from the president. Who's going to protect us? Who's going to run America?
Right.
Well, here's the game they play, though. The president issues an executive order that says from these 6 countries, there will be no more immigrants coming in until we can develop a plan to vet them thoroughly, to know that they're not part of a terrorist network. So the liberals get together and they say, okay, we've got to challenge this. We've got to challenge it, though, so that it will go to the Ninth Circuit Court. Okay? We don't want it to go to the Fifth Circuit in Denver or the Circuit Court. I think it's the... No, it's the 6th in Denver and the 5th down in Texas, Louisiana, and all that. We don't want it to go there. We want to go to the Ninth Circuit Court. So what do? They get a guy in the state of Washington to judge up there to write an order saying that this executive order will not be adhered to. This is unconstitutional. Then they challenge it in the Ninth Circuit Court. It gets upheld in the Ninth Circuit Court. Now, what does the president do? Well, he does just what he did. He rewrites the executive order and tries again. This time they say, well, we still got to keep it in the Ninth Circuit Court. But what are we going to do? They go to Hawaii. They get a judge in Hawaii to make a ruling that this is not constitutional. Then it gets challenged in the Ninth Circuit Court, and the Ninth Circuit Court upholds it. So this is the game they play. But they won't challenge those things where the court is even relatively conservative. They won't challenge it. And this is activism from the bench. It's not what the court system's supposed to be doing.
Well, isn't the job of a judge to look at the facts without bias? I mean, you're saying that these judges have activist agendas. Aren't they, you know, they say justice is blind. Aren't they not supposed to insert their agenda into their rulings?
They are absolutely not supposed to insert their agenda into their rulings. They are supposed to be equal justice for all.
Yes.
And what you see all the way to the Supreme Court is you see activist judges. I mean, stop and think about the fact that why are they there? Why does the president put them there, whether it's conservative or liberal? Because they think the way he does. They are inclined to support generally the kinds of things that he's trying to do. Remember when Harry Reid did the nuclear option? Yeah. Remember that? He cut off debate and said it'll only require a majority vote. What that was about was not the Supreme Court, it was the D.C. Circuit Court, or the 10th Circuit Court in the country. And he wanted 2 more justices in the D.C. Circuit Court. And the Republicans wouldn't play ball, they wouldn't go along with him, so he said, I'll do the nuclear option because we need 2 more justices. Let me tell you, they don't have a big enough workload for 2 more justices, period. But think about this. This is why he did it. Every challenge to the administration is adjudicated in the D.C. Circuit Court. So if there's somebody challenges, like on health care, they challenge the president legally, it goes to the D.C. Circuit Court. Not only that, but people like Clarence Thomas, they come from the D.C. Circuit Court to the Supreme Court. So what were they doing? They were front-loading influence for Barack Obama for the next 30 years by putting 2 40-some-year-olds on the D.C. Circuit Court, which will continue making rulings that are consistent with the policies of the Obama administration, and they're setting him up to be able to be fleeted up to the Supreme Court under the next Democratic president. That's why they did the nuclear option. Now, it came back to bite them.
Yeah.
You know, they had a short-term gain, but a long-term loss because it came back to bite them. But that's what's happening in this court system. And these are activist judges. They are not impartial. They are not unbiased.